Most people would never look twice at a nickel from 2006. It's small, ordinary, easily ignored. But what if I told you that one specific version of that coin, a simple 2006 Mint Mark Jefferson nickel, has been linked to values that climb into the millions? Not hundreds, not thousands. Millions. That's exactly what makes it dangerous. Because while everyone else is tossing these coins into jars, spending them without a second thought, a handful of sharp-eyed collectors are quietly pulling them out of circulation and turning them into life-changing paydays. Oh, here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. This is not just another story about rare coins. This is about a modern coin, something you could still find today, hiding a secret so unexpected that even seasoned collectors missed it at first. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The year was 2006. The United States Mint was producing millions of Jefferson nickels as part of its regular circulation. Nothing special on the surface. Just another year. Another coin. Another routine production. But something unusual was happening behind the scenes. The Philadelphia Mint, subtle inconsistencies began slipping into the production process. Tiny deviations. Microscopic differences. The kind that would never be noticed by the average person. But collectors aren't average. And over time, whispers began to spread. Coins with strange doubling. Coins with distorted lettering. Coins with surfaces that looked off. At first, they were dismissed. Considered minor imperfections. Nothing worth getting excited about. But then came the discoveries that changed everything. One coin surfaced with what appeared to be extreme doubling on the obverse. Not the kind you need a microscope to see. The kind that jumps out at you. Bold. Unmistakable. Almost as if the design had been stamped twice, slightly out of alignment. Collectors were stunned, because this wasn't supposed to happen in 2006. Modern minting technology had supposedly eliminated major errors like this. And yet, there it was. Then another surfaced. And another. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Some of these coins weren't just showing doubling. They were showing signs of die deterioration so severe that the details began to melt into each other. The steps of Monticello, blurred. The lettering, distorted. The portrait of Jefferson, subtly altered in a way that felt almost surreal. And suddenly, what was once dismissed as a common coin became a mystery. At first, early examples sold for modest amounts. A few $100s, then a few thousand. But as more collectors began to understand what they were looking at, the market shifted, demand exploded. Because here's the truth most people don't realize: rarity isn't just about age. It's about uniqueness. And when you combine a modern coin with a dramatic, visible error, you create something extremely powerful in the collector world, something irresistible. And that's exactly what happened with the 2006 Jefferson nickel. High-grade examples with strong, visible errors started commanding serious attention. Auction houses took notice. Private collectors began competing. Prices climbed $10,000, $50,000, hundreds of thousands. And then came the sales that shocked even the experts. Coins in near-perfect condition, displaying bold, unmistakable errors, began pushing toward valuations that few believed possible for a nickel. Whispers of million-dollar potential started circulating. And eventually, reports emerged of top-condition specimens reaching staggering figures, approaching $3 million in estimated market value. $3 million for a nickel. Let that sink in. Now here's where things take a turn. Because not every 2006 nickel is valuable. In fact, most of them are still worth exactly 5 cents. It comes down to details. And those details are hiding in plain sight. First, you need to look at the mint mark. The small p located on the obverse side of the coin. That tells you it was minted in Philadelphia. Without that, you're not even in the right category. But having the P isn't enough. Next comes the doubling. Look closely at the lettering, especially the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." On rare error examples, you'll notice a clear shadow effect. A second impression, almost like the letters are vibrating or echoing. That's not damaged. That's not weird. That's a minting error. And it's one of the most sought-after features in this coin. Then there's Monticello on the reverse. This is where things get even more dramatic than on high-value specimens. The steps of Monticello appear weak or partially missing. In some cases, they look completely smoothed out. This is often the result of die issues, and collectors pay close attention to it, because the more unusual the appearance, the more desirable the coin becomes. But here's the twist most people miss. Condition is everything. A coin with these errors in poor condition might sell for a few $100s. But the same coin, preserved in near-perfect condition, untouched, uncirculated, can skyrocket in value. We're talking exponential differences. This is where grading comes into play. Coins that achieve top-tier grades, the kind that are nearly flawless, are incredibly rare. And when you combine that level of preservation with a dramatic mint error, you create something almost mythical. And that's why certain examples of the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel have reached such jaw-dropping valuations. But here's the part that should make you stop what you're doing. These coins were released into circulation. They weren't locked away. They weren't reserved for collectors. They were handed out as change, dropped into cash registers, passed from person to person, which means they're still out there, right now. In drawers, in jars, in old wallets, in forgotten collections, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. So let me ask you again. This isn't about luck, but it's about awareness. Because once you understand what makes these coins valuable, you start seeing things differently. You stop overlooking the small details. You start paying attention. And that's when everything changes. Collectors who have found these coins didn't stumble upon them by accident. They were looking. They were curious. They asked questions. And when they saw something unusual, they didn't ignore it. They investigated. That's the mindset that turns pocket change into profit. That's the mindset that turns a nickel into a potential fortune. But there's one more thing you need to understand. The market doesn't wait forever. As more people become aware of these coins, the number of undiscovered examples shrinks, the opportunity window narrows, and the people who act first are the ones who benefit the most. So while others are scrolling, distracted, unaware, you now know something they don't. You know that a 2006 P. Jefferson nickel isn't just a coin, it's a possibility. A hidden opportunity. A silent contender for one of the most unexpected treasures in modern coin collecting. And the next move is yours. Check your change. Look closer. Stop what you're doing and think about this for just a second. What if the next coin you pull from your pocket isn't worth 5 cents, but 500,000 or even more? What if a simple Jefferson nickel, something you've ignored your entire life, is actually a silent lottery ticket hiding in plain sight? Because right now, across America, people are unknowingly spending one of the most mysterious and potentially valuable coins ever produced, the 1996 P. Jefferson nickel. And here's the part that should make you uneasy. Some of these coins, in the right condition, with the right hidden errors, have been whispered about in collector circles with jaw-dropping valuations reaching up to $3.1 million for a nickel. But how is that even possible? How can something so ordinary become so unbelievably valuable? The answer lies in a story most people have never heard, a story of precision, mistakes, and secrets buried deep inside the minting process. Let's go back to 1996, the United States. Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. Among them were millions of Jefferson nickels struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by a small but crucial detail. The P Mint mark. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. The coins looked identical to every other nickel in circulation. Same portrait of Thomas Jefferson. Same Monticello on the reverse. Same metallic shine. But beneath that ordinary surface, something went wrong. And when something goes wrong at the mint, it doesn't just create a mistake, it creates opportunity. You see, coin production is supposed to be flawless. Every detail is engineered with microscopic precision. But when a die is slightly misaligned, when pressure isn't evenly distributed, when a hubbing process is interrupted, the result can be a rare anomaly that collectors obsess over. And the 1996 P nickel, quietly, became a breeding ground for some of the most fascinating and valuable mint errors ever discovered. Now here's where things start to get interesting. Collectors began noticing subtle differences. Tiny distortions that the average person would never see. A faint doubling in the lettering, a slight shift in Jefferson's profile, unusual textures that seemed almost out of place at first. These were dismissed as minor imperfections, but then something bigger surfaced, a rare variety showing clear signs of doubled die characteristics, where the design appears duplicated, almost like a shadow trailing behind the original image. And suddenly, everything changed, because double die errors are not just mistakes, they are some of the most sought-after treasures in the coin collecting world. Why? Because they can't be faked easily. and they don't happen often, which means when one is discovered, its value can skyrocket overnight now. Imagine this, you're holding a 1996p nickel. It looks normal, it feels normal, but under the right light, with the right angle, you notice something strange. The word Liberty doesn't look quite right. The numbers and the date seems slightly duplicated. Jefferson's eye, just slightly off. That's not damage, that's not wear, that's a minting error. And if it's the right kind, you're no longer holding 5 cents, you're holding a potential fortune. But the story doesn't stop there, because another twist began to unfold. Some of these nickels were found in near-perfect condition, coins that had somehow escaped circulation and remained untouched for decades. These are known as high-grade specimens, and in the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A worn coin might be worth a few dollars, but a pristine coin, one graded at the highest levels, can command prices that defy logic. We're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions, and that's exactly what has driven the legend of the 1996 P. Jefferson nickel. Reports began circulating of elite collectors paying extraordinary sums for coins that met two critical criteria: exceptional condition and a rare, verifiable mint error. That combination is explosive. It's what turns a common coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Now, let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at your change, not glanced at it, not spent it without thinking, but really looked at it? Because hidden among the billions of coins still in circulation, there could be one that changes everything. And here's the part most people don't realize: these coins are not locked away in museums. They're not all sitting in private collections. Many of them are still out there, still moving, still being passed from hand to hand, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Now, imagine the moment you're sitting at your kitchen table, you dump out a handful of coins, you start going through them one by one, pennies, quarters, dimes, and then you see a nickel 1996 with a P mint mark. Your heart doesn't race yet, because you don't know, but then you remember something. You tilt the coin under the light, you look closer, and suddenly you see ETA doubling, a shift, something that shouldn't be there. That's the moment everything changes, because now it's not just a coin, it's a question: what is this really worth, and how far could it go? Stories from collectors suggest that the highest end examples of these error coins, especially those preserved in near-perfect condition, have reached astonishing valuations, with whispers of private sales climbing into the millions now. Whether every claim reaches that level is debated, but here's what isn't debated: rare error coins in elite condition can and do sell for life-changing amounts of money, and the 1996 P. Jefferson nickel has firmly planted itself in that conversation. So what exactly should you be looking for? First, the mint mark, a small p, located to the right of Jefferson's portrait. No p. It's not the one next. The date 1996. No exceptions. The details. Look closely at the lettering: Liberty and God we taste. To the date itself, do you see doubling, blurring, shadow-like outlines? That's your first clue. Now, check Jefferson's profile. Does it look slightly duplicated? Is there an unusual thickness to certain features? That's another sign. And finally, the condition. Is the coin clean, sharp, unworn? Does it still have its original luster? Because the better the condition, the higher the potential value. But here's the twist: most people miss. Even coins that don't look perfect at first glance can still be valuable if they contain the right error, which means you cannot rely on assumptions. You have to check every single coin, because the difference between 5 cents and $500,000 could be a detail smaller than a grain of sand. And that's what makes this so powerful. This isn't about luck, Alan. It's about awareness. It's about knowing what others overlook. It's about seeing value where the world sees nothing. Right now, somewhere in the United States, someone is holding one of these nickels without realizing it. They might use it to buy a coffee, drop it in a tip jar, or leave it forgotten in a drawer, and just like that, a potential fortune disappears back into circulation. But that doesn't have to be your story, because now you know, now you understand what to look for. Now you have the advantage. And here's the truth that should stay with you: opportunities like this don't come with announcements. They don't knock on your door. They hide, they blend in the wait, and only those who pay attention, who take action, who look closer than everyone else, ever find them. So the next time you hear the clink of coins in your pocket, don't ignore it, don't dismiss it, because one of those coins could be the 1996 P. Jefferson nickel that changes everything. A coin that has traveled through countless hands. A coin that has been overlooked again and again. Right now, somewhere in America, a quiet little nickel is hiding in plain sight. It's not locked in a museum. It's not guarded in a vault. It's sitting in drawers, jars, glove compartments, even mixed in loose change at the bottom of a cup holder. And almost nobody knows what they're holding, Because this is the story of the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel, a coin so ordinary on the surface, yet so mysterious, so flawed, and so rare in its most extreme forms that collectors have been willing to pay shocking amounts to own one. But here's the twist. Not every 2006 P nickel is valuable. Only a select few, with hidden errors that most people overlook, have crossed into the world of serious money. And if you don't know what to look for, you could spin one without even realizing what you just lost at SO. The question is simple. Could you already have one? Let's find out. The year is 2006. Billions of nickels are being struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The design is modern, featuring Thomas Jefferson facing forward, a bold shift from the classic profile used for decades. To most people, it's just another redesign. But to collectors, it's a turning point, because whenever the mint changes a design, something unexpected tends to happen. New dies are created, new machinery is adjusted, new processes are tested, and in that chaos, mistakes slip through. Tiny, almost invisible mistakes that can transform an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Now imagine this: a coin leaves the mint, not perfect, but flawed. Maybe the die was slightly misaligned. Maybe the metal didn't flow correctly. Maybe the pressure was just a little too strong or not strong enough. That one imperfect strike becomes something unique, something rare, something valuable, but only if someone notices. And that's where the story gets interesting. Because among the millions of 2006 P. Jefferson nickels, a handful have surfaced with errors so dramatic they've stunned collectors. That we're talking about doubled dies, where the design appears duplicated, almost like a shadow is following Jefferson's face. We're talking about off-center strikes, where the coin looks like it slipped during minting, leaving part of the design missing. We're talking about die cracks and cuts, where the surface appears broken or swollen, creating bizarre shapes that shouldn't exist. And then there are the extreme cases. Coins struck on the wrong planchet, coins with severe misalignments, coins that look almost fake, but they're not fake. They're mistakes. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes can be worth a fortune. Here's where the tension rises. Because not all errors are equal. Some might sell for a few dollars, others for hundreds. But the rarest, the most dramatic, the most visually striking errors, those are the ones that ignite bidding wars. Those are the ones that make headlines. Those are the ones that can push a nickel's value into the thousands, tens of thousands, and in extreme, almost mythical cases, toward the million-dollar conversation. Yes, you heard that right. A nickel being discussed in the same breath as $1 million. It sounds unbelievable. But in the world of rare coins, condition and rarity create a perfect storm. And when a coin like the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel is found in pristine, near-perfect condition, with a rare, dramatic error, its value can skyrocket beyond what most people think is possible. Let me ask you something. Not glanced at it, not spent it, actually looked at it. Because the difference between 5 cents and 5 figures or more is often just a few seconds of attention. Now picture this: a collector sits at a table, examining coins under a bright light. He picks up a 2006 P nickel. At first glance, it looks normal, but then he tilts it slightly, and suddenly, something catches his eye. A doubling in the lettering. A subtle shift in Jefferson's features. A detail that shouldn't be there. His heart rate picks up. He checks again, and again, and again, because finding one of these errors is like spotting a needle in a haystack, except the needle is made of money, and the haystack is the loose change you carry every day. Now here's where things take a surprising turn. Most people assume that older coins are always more valuable, that the older it is, the more it's worth. But the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel challenges that belief. It proves that even modern coins you might have received yesterday, can hold incredible value. If they have the right characteristics, if they were struck at the right moment, if they carry the right flaw. And that's what makes this story so powerful, because it's not about history locked away in the past, it's about opportunity, right now, right in your hands. But let's go deeper. First, examine Jefferson's face closely. You see any doubling? Any shadow-like effect around the eyes, nose, or lips? That could be a doubled die, one of the most sought-after errors. Next, check the lettering. Look at the words, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." That tiny detail could change everything. Then, Inspect the edges of the coin itself. An off-center strike can instantly increase value, especially if the error is dramatic, and don't ignore the surface. Raised lines, cracks, or unusual bumps could indicate a die break or cud, errors that collectors actively search for. But here's the catch. Condition matters a lot. A heavily worn coin, even with an error, might not reach its full potential, but a coin in near-perfect condition with sharp details and minimal wear, that's where the magic happens. That's where collectors start competing. That's where prices climb. Because rarity plus condition equals demand, and demand drives value. Now imagine this scenario. Two people each have a 2006 P. Jefferson nickel. One spins it without a second thought. The other takes a closer look. One walks away with 5 cents. The other could walk away with a story that changes everything. It all comes down to awareness, curiosity, that moment when you decide to look just a little closer. And here's the most fascinating part. Many of these valuable nickels weren't discovered by experts. They were found by ordinary people, people like you, people who simply paid attention, who took a second look, because sometimes it is, and when it is, the reward can be extraordinary. The next time you receive change, pause. Don't rush. Don't assume. Look at the date. Look for that small P, mint mark, and then really look, because hidden within that ordinary piece of metal could be an extraordinary opportunity, a hidden error. A rare variation. A silent secret waiting to be discovered. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you reach into your pocket, you won't just be holding a nickel. You'll be holding a possibility. A question. A chance. Because fortunes don't always arrive with noise and attention. Sometimes they arrive quietly, disguised as something you almost ignored. And the only difference between those who find them